What's up, Wesley? Welcome back to the Charleston Wesley podcast, where we make ministry available on the go. I'm Ava, and I'm the Wesley worship intern.
And I'm John, and I serve as the pastor of the Wesley Foundation, and we have a very special guest joining us for this episode. It is, drum roll, Lily, come on.
Hello, I'm Lily. I go to Trident Technical College. I am in my second year, and I'm in their medical assisting program.
Oh, yeah. How'd you find Wesley?
So I found Wesley through John, actually.
Wow, what a coinky dink.
I know.
Didn't think you were going to mention that.
I know, who'd have thought? But he's my former youth pastor, and then he went to college ministry, and then I said, I'll come to college ministry, I guess. And now I'm here.
Here you are, and we're glad you're here.
Yay.
I have an important question. This episode we're talking about service. And in most service experiences that both of you have had, because I know both of you, and I've been on several service opportunities with both of you, a lot of them have to do with construction. And I have found that in my experience with construction, I really feel a deep connection to a certain type of construction work. And so my question to y'all is, what is your deep spiritual connection to a specific type of construction work, and why?
Ooh.
I love a ramp.
You love a ramp?
Like a ramp or steps, or just like doing a front deck. Like, I love roofing too, but it gets very hot on the roof.
It does.
But like, put me building a deck, and like I'll have a deck or a ramp built in a day, like flat. I'll have a great time.
I don't know if this counts as construction, so you're probably gonna get mad, but I really like painting houses and like also doing the trim work, because we did one of those on our last trip where there's a bunch of like window frames, and I got to go in with like a tiny brush and like do all the edge work. So yeah, picking up a paintbrush.
Counts. I just deeply love drywall.
I don't think I've gotten the chance to do it.
It's just there's something satisfying about it. It's like a little bit like a puzzle, because you like fit the pieces together, and like you have to use like weird out of the box thinking, because you have to like cut on a flat surface, imagining what it would be like against a wall. So if there's like outlets and stuff, then you have to measure the distance in the actual segment. And then like if you're doing like ceiling, that's really annoying, because then you have to cut around like fans and lights and stuff like that. So it's fun. It's like a puzzle, and I enjoy it. And then like also drywall is fun, because you can just like cut it and then just snap it and then fit it together. So I really enjoy drywall. I have a follow-up question, because that was not as I thought it would be. My follow-up question is, what is your favorite tool that you've ever used?
Okay. I'm scared of power tools, so I haven't used like a ton of them, to be completely real.
Power tool.
You could be a screwdriver.
Yeah, give me some example. Yeah,
a
you
screwdriver, hammer.
I do like
wrench.
Crowbar. Crowbar's a good time.
Crowbar pretty solid.
What's yours?
I like a nail gun, or like a something, like anything like that.
Oh, dude, those are ammunition loaded. That's really scary.
It is very intoxicating with power.
It is.
When Hannah and I did our floors, we had to get, I don't even know what you call it, but it's like, it's just a high-powered stapler, because it has to staple like the inside ridge of the floor panels that attach to each other. So the way that you do it is you hook it up to an air compressor, and you need a mallet, and you hit the back of the stapler, and that just like launches it into the floor. And that thing's fun, because you just take that mallet and you like swing the heck out of it to get the staple to hit.
All your anger just absolutely gone.
Yeah, that was pretty fun, but it's pretty loud, and so that kind of got on my nerves, and that's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily love nail guns either, because of just how loud they are after a while. I like a miter saw a lot, the ones that you pull down.
Ooh, I do love a good miter saw.
Yeah, because those are fun. You can do angles and do everything. My least favorite tool is a tape measure.
Amen.
I hate
Why?
One,
dude, tape measures?
I ripped my finger open once with one, and it hurt a lot. And two, they're just annoying.
No, because my worst thing was like, give me an 8 3/4, and I'm like, then you gotta look at the little lines. I don't like looking at the little lines.
I do love a yardstick, though. I don't like the flimsiness of a tape measure. All right, Ava, we've stalled long enough.
It's really bad.
Box cutters also.
Ooh, box cutters.
Ooh, I like those. I like those. I like
You like the knife?
Well, I like Well, yeah, it's because it's like a big X-Acto knife, right?
Yeah.
I like those, and then I like paintbrushes.
You're being pretty lame. with
Yeah.
Well,
things,
okay,
so-
every power tool I'm thinking of, I can think of a bad thing that's happened while using
You
one.
not like
So
drills?
that's the problem.
You
It's
not
like,
like drills?
okay, yeah, those are pretty cool, I guess.
What is the maximum, like, obviously nail guns out of the picture.
Well, no, because that being said, I think I've used a lot of these tools, but normally it's with somebody, like,
Okay,
Sure.
yeah, we're not like putting you in the forest and giving you these tools.
like when I do like that saw thing where you can
Yeah,
cut the
the
wood,
lighter.
but normally I'm the one on the end holding it. I'm nowhere near the blade, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh.
I don't know if I'm getting the full
Those
experience.
saws I like because those are pretty hard to cut yourself on.
You really have to be trying.
Well, you just got to be pretty careless. The circular saws I don't mind as much, but those can be a little bit dangerous. And the table saws freak me out.
Table saws.
I think
are
that's what
terrifying.
I'm thinking
I don't
of is
work
the
table saw. Well, table saw is the saw that comes up
Yeah.
from underneath.
No, I don't-
Miter saw comes down from
Oh,
above.
I'm talking about the miter.
Yeah.
Oh, see, the miter I feel fine with.
That's fine. The table saw.
Oh, scratch everything that I've said because I know what is better. A pressure washer is one of the most divisive
Yeah.
things ever. And
Yeah.
quick story time about how when I was in youth ministry, I would work with volunteers from other places, and sometimes volunteers were dumber than the youth. So I drop off my pressure washer to a site, and I'm giving the safety brief. And I said, this is not a high-powered pressure washer, but you need to realize that there are some that can cut your finger in half. Like, it can cut it off. It can rip the skin off and all this stuff, right? And so you have to be careful with this. And the volunteer literally just and sprayed his hand and goes, "Ow, that hurt," in front of the youth. And I was like, yes, that is what I just said. And then later, that dude called me and he said, "Hey, quick question. Can the pressure washer get wet?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, I don't want it to break or anything if it gets wet. And I was like, "It's a pressure washer, dude. Like, it will get wet." All that to say, sometimes the adults, question mark or quotation marks, the adults on sites know just as little as y'all. So, and that's okay.
Ooh,
Okay.
I feel like I would like lowing a lawn. Wait,
What?
What?
mowing a lawn. Sorry.
I was like, what are you doing?
I'm going. Yeah,
Let's just say
no. I don't know what
lawn.
just happened in my brain, but
Really?
Mowing a lawn, like, because I like watching the videos where it's like really overgrown, and the guy will like go and do it like satisfactorily.
You have a
Satisfaction.
stroke, but are you talking about a weed eater or are you talking about a lawnmower?
Ooh, both.
See, I don't like weed eaters. 'Cause
I don't like weed eaters.
That's
kick
one with
back
like
to
the
you.
big
Yeah.
the stick, right?
Yeah.
I'd probably say a lawnmower then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lawnmowers
I want to
don't
have the
enjoy.
power here.
I don't enjoy loud stuff in general, so that's kind of my beef
I
with
didn't
it.
think about the noise.
But anyway, point is that we've had the opportunity to use some tools, and that's kind of cool. And that is kind of a hidden benefit of a lot of mission trips and service trips. And I feel like it would be a disservice to not mention that on the service trip podcast. I have a question for y'all up front. Segue. What? Tell the listeners what experience y'all have with service/mission trips. And what was your favorite?
Well,
There it is.
I am not. I don't know if I can like exactly count out a good number, but in middle school and high school, I got involved. Mainly high school, I got involved in something called Sakahachi, which is like, and Lily did too. So and I feel like you'll give a really good explanation of it because you're still involved. But that was where they would let a bunch of high schoolers go fix homes in places in South Carolina with adult supervision under the Lord's provision. So, I mean, it wasn't like...
It's a weird flex.
like, I'm trying to explain that they didn't just let us run around with, like, power tools, but...
Depends on the site, dude.
Yeah, I
I've
know.
I've been in places. Anyway, continue.
But, yeah, I did that in high school. and I really like that. And then I came to college, and Wesley did mission work, so I've done a couple of those during the wintertime. So we've done some disaster relief trips, and then we've also done some poverty mission trips. And then there's also like the random little weekend trips where the little, like helping out just somebody in the community, like doing yard work for somebody or things like that. So, yep.
Yeah, so I've done Sakahatchee since 2019, minus years for COVID, obviously. And then also, since coming to Wesley, I went on this last winter mission trip, which we went to North Carolina, and we did some like poverty mission work. But I have, like, kind of two favorites, because one of them was back whenever I was in high school, and we built, like, this ramp for someone that went to the church that we were going to. And, like, it's really fun, because I still drive by that house all the time.
You talking about when we were with Al and Rod?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that, too.
And, like,
Can't remember the person.
Cannot remember the person.
But, yeah.
But, like, it's still really fun. Like, I
good.
drive by it, and it's like, oh, I built that ramp.
Mm-hmm.
Not all by myself, but it's fine. And then, like, the North Carolina one was just fun because you just kind of get to see a different way of life. Obviously, like, we're in the mountains, and just people in the mountains are built in an entirely different way than we are here, in, like, ways that I will never understand.
Yeah.
But still, like, you know, they're like, we did firewood for, like, 8 hours, and, like, we killed it.
Oh, that's my favorite tool right there. Is that wood chopper.
Hydraulic axe. Yeah. Did you do the service weeks that we did over
Yeah.
COVID? So in lieu of Sakahatchee.
In lieu of Sakahatchee, I still did service weeks.
Yeah, so I have only done Sakahatchee once, actually. And it was because the first time I did Sakahatchee was 2019, and then COVID happened. And so then we pivoted, we meaning me and some other local youth leaders, we decided to just do our own service weeks. And so we did that for 3 years, and that was cool. When I was in Wesley, I did 2 of the Christmas mission trips, and I went to Ecuador 3 times, which is international mission trips are super cool, very different in some ways. And then, so I've been to Ecuador 3 times. I went to the Bahamas once on a trip. I went to Nicaragua once on a trip, and then however many with Wesley at this point. So I've been around a few, and it's hard to pick favorites. The Nicaragua one was really, really cool, a lot of fun. But there was one when I was y'all's age in Wesley. It was me and 4 other people, and we drove all the way down to the Florida Keys to do disaster relief. And I didn't know the other 3 or 4 other people, or 3 other people. I didn't know them well, and so and it was they were all Citadel, and I was College of Charleston, and we went down there, and that's a long drive. It was a long, long drive, and we went, and we had a great time, and and I think about that trip often, and just God was doing a lot in my heart during that time, and yeah, I love service, and I love mission trips and all that good stuff, and I guess my first question to y'all is, what is your motivation for doing these things?
I think for me, it's that, I am very fortunate in a lot of ways, and I really like doing mission weeks, no matter really where it is, or just doing a day thing for someone that, I worked on a house one time, and the person's daughter, they did Sakahatchee whenever they were growing up, and now their mom's getting help.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of the full circle moment of
yeah.
Wow. And so it's I do this because I would hope that one day, if I couldn't do something, that a bunch of middle school and high schoolers would have the heart that would we'll go help you out, and we'll do it because Jesus said so, and we'll be all right.
Yeah. Jesus did say so.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. To go on a more selfish note, I really love the fellowship I get from mission trips.
Yeah.
There's been some kind of what you were saying, John, some that I've been on, even with Wesley, where I didn't really know a ton of the people going, and by the end of it, I can see them every Monday night and have a conversation with them now, and I've made some really good bonds on those trips. So I love the fellowship aspects of mission trips. especially like because in the college ones that we've done so far, we've either like rented a big house or we've stayed at a center or maybe sometimes you'll stay at a church, and so you're really like staying all together. It's not like you do hotel rooms most of the time. So like you really see like everybody on those types of trips.
Yeah, and I don't think that's necessarily selfish. I think that if that is your primary motivation, then that is not the right motivation to go on the trip. But I think that is a known benefit of these trips, you know. So I wouldn't call it selfish. I think it kind of depends on the trip for the motivation that I have. And like from a leader point of view, a lot of the motivation that I have on these trips is like, what do I think would be the most impactful for y'all's faith? Because like the way that I've kind of like looked at my job and my role in y'all's lives is like, y'all are in Wesley for approximately 4 years, right? Things can change, but approximately 4 years. And how can I give y'all the most diverse opportunities as possible over the course of 4 years? That way when you graduate and you find your local church, you can be like, you know what, I did do disaster relief in college, and like I can go with the youth group and like help them, you know what I mean? Or I went on a mission trip to Ecuador, and you know, this is where we went, and I'm happy to kind of go again, and you know what I mean, and kind of equip the church on the back end is a little bit of the logic that I have. But I do think that two of the things that I consider is the need of the community. Like, are we going to do something that is needed, and what good will be for those who attend, right? And so, for example, one of the things that kind of drives me crazy is like a lot of churches will send a whole bunch of white people to South America, and they don't know a single thing about laying concrete, but they will buy the concrete there, and they will lay the concrete, and then they will stamp their church's name onto that building or whatever, and then they'll take a whole bunch of pictures with these people from South America, and that's actually not an effective way of like helping, because one, your concrete could be bad, and two, there are construction workers in South America. Like there are people whose livelihood depend on something like this. So it's actually more beneficial to hire those workers and put the money into their economy, so because then those construction workers have money to put food on their tables.
I never thought of that.
And so there is this kind of thought process with service work, right? So perfect example, the firewood that we chopped over Christmas, right? We were able to chop more wood because we had more hands, and that system was already in place by Hinton to serve the community, right? We didn't go up and then chop down a whole bunch of trees and then chop up firewood and then bundle it and then drop it off at random people's houses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you work within existing systems is always what you should do. Work within existing systems and figure out, like, what the need of the community is, right? If they don't need firewood, then we shouldn't be chopping firewood. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of a weird soapbox thing, but I do think that we can be a little more strategic with mission work in general. And so one question that I have is, there are blessings and there are curses with service trips and mission trips. What have been some of your challenges on trips?
I mean, funny enough, I know I just talked about loving the fellowship aspect of it, but you are spending a lot of time with these people, and depending on the length of the trip, you just, you know, people get tired, people get cranky, those type of things. So that aspect of it, and also I think when you at least go on your first couple, especially without knowing anyone, it can be really daunting. Like, I know sometimes in the past, like the week before a trip, I would feel that like slight, like, what if this was the wrong decision? I'm about to spend a week with like people and feel lonely, and every single time I've been proven wrong. But that has been a challenge of like actually getting myself there with like last minute regret for some reason. But that's normally just like comes from fear of like not really knowing the people going. But to everyone that's listening, I've always been proven wrong on that
Yeah.
every single time. So that's been some of my challenges.
I think, like, going off of what you said at the beginning, like, just the getting tired part, a lot of the times whenever you're doing these kinds of trips and doing this kind of stuff, you're just tired. Like, you come back, and then you're eating dinner, and you're showered, and you're just like, I kind of just want to go lay down. And then you feel almost bad, because you're like, you just want to go lay down and, like, rest and, like, recharge, because you know you're going to go to bed and then wake up super early and do the same thing over again.
Yeah.
And then, like, you almost feel bad because you're like, but I want to hang out with these people. Or if it's Sakahatchee, I see people I only see that once a year that it's like, I need to go hang out with them. And it's also, like, that kind of stuff. And then also, yeah, like, before I went to Sakahatchee for the first time, it's like, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, didn't know what I was doing. And it's just that anticipation of, like, what if I can't learn?
Yeah.
Like, what if I've just spent this money and I've spent this time and I'm just going to regret it?
Yeah.
Which, again, I've also been proven wrong every time. But,
Yeah.
like...
Yeah. I think a handful of challenges that I come up with is, like, the pressure of working on someone else's house can be tough, or, like, someone
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
of, like, I do not want to do this wrong, and, like, and so then you're just paralyzed, and, like, I've done jobs where, like, we left, and I was just like, that was not okay, like, and, like, I've had to, like, call the people that we're working with and be like, you need to double check what we just did, because I'm pretty sure we've done it wrong, and, like, I hate doing that. The other thing that, like, can be difficult is sometimes we have this illusion that we're, like, the heroes, and we, like, come and, like, we're walking on a scene, and there's, like, smoke machines and sparklers, and, like, the homeowner or the people are gonna, like, fall to their knees crying and thanking us and, like, blessing the ground that we walk on. And then we get there, and, like, they may not be the most pleasant people that we serve, and, like, that's been difficult before. And I do think that, we all get tired of each other at some point. We all hit, like, a point where we're like, I need a minute. That can definitely be a challenge. But in that, what are some things that have held you back from participating in trips in the past, whether this was in high school or even now? Like, what are some things that seem like barriers or even anxieties, something like that?
I know sometimes, in college at least, I know a lot of us are thinking about in terms of, like, this is how much break time I get.
Yeah.
I know that was a big one my first Christmas mission trip, because I'd never had a college winter break before, so I didn't know how long it would actually feel until I got there. It's a pretty good break.
Yeah.
Really
But at the
long.
time, I had been here for a semester. I was like, I want to go home. I want to see people that I haven't seen in a while. And so that was definitely something that kind of almost held me back, was feeling like an obligation to go home, and like I didn't want to let people down that were expecting me to come home and spend as much time with them as I could.
Yeah, I think I mainly just fall into, like, the Ava category of just, like, you tell your parents, like, yeah, this is my last day of exams, and they're like, okay, cool, so we'll see you the next day, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
like, kind of want to do this, and you're like, because they know that you want to go, and they're going to be happy for you, and they're going to want you to go anyway, but it's still the thing if you're just like, I have to tell mom and dad no, or, like, take away the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money's also stressful for a lot of
Yeah.
people too, which you help us fundraise, which is nice, but like there was trips in the past where that wasn't really something that we did. Like you just did it on your own way, which was cool, but yeah, so I know that's something that stresses people out too.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to address all this. I think you're both wrong.
No. Well, that's what
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
saying is
Yeah.
all of these are things not to worry
Well,
about, but
And like, it's not that you're wrong that you worry about them. I think it's wrong if you let them be barriers, because I don't think that they're actual barriers. So let's talk about parent approval or seal of approval. One, y'all are adults, and so guess what? You can do whatever you want. And to whatever parents are listening, like, I know that's some hard words to hear, but them's the truth. So I mean, like, it's true though. I mean, like, it's true.
yeah, no,
I mean, like,
it's right. Yeah.
You know, you know, Ava's parents, if they're listening,
No.
Ava could go and just get like a face tattoo if she wanted.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Oh.
Because she has free will, and like you should just be thankful that she's not doing that. And they really can't be upset if you're like, oh, I actually want to go help poor people in North Carolina.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
yeah.
you are exercising your free will for goodness, not for something dumb. You know.
Yeah.
And so like when parents like always push back on that, I'm always just like, that's a little selfish.
Mm.
Because your children are coming to you saying that they want to live out their faith and they want to have fun. And I recognize that you miss them and you want them home, but also you want what's best for them. And so really what is what is the priority here? Is it you spending time with your kids, or is it your kids having the best time that they could have with their relationship with Christ?
Mm.
And like, we make jokes about me pulling the Jesus card, but like truly, like this is the biggest and most important thing. And so, when parents come and they're like, well, I don't want them to miss a whole week of summer break. It's like, they got 3 months, dude. Or like Christmas break always kills me because I'm like, dude, Christmas break is so long in college. It is so long. And I always tell freshmen, I'm like, listen, you think it's cool, but like by week 3, you are ready to be back. Like, and so like you will not miss. So all that to say, like, parents, you gotta let them go. You gotta let them go. And kids, you gotta stick to your guns.
Can I also say something really fast? Is I think sometimes we also assume what our parents are going to think. Because
Oh, yeah.
I think I assumed that people were going to be upset when I went, and no one cared. Everyone was like, oh, that's awesome when I came
that's
home.
a good point.
And so that's the other thing I'll lift up is, like, don't assume either
Yeah.
that your parents or your family are going to be
Right.
not supportive. Because,
Unsupportive.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, unsupportive? Not supportive.
I don't know. Anyway, so that's the first thing. Money, I hear you. A few things with that. One, if you work, then you can go on any mission trip. The truth is, what are you willing to sacrifice to go on said trip, right? If you really want to go to DC, or if you really want to go to Ecuador, or wherever we're going, you can sacrifice some of the comforts of your life for 8 months, and that puts money aside. So that's first and foremost. But 2, if that isn't going to get you to the finish line, there is nothing wrong with inviting people to love you, right? There's nothing wrong with inviting people to love you. And so what you do is you say, Grandma, I really feel called to go to El Salvador because they're going to be working with children in El Salvador, and I think that that'd be a beautiful thing. And I've been taking Spanish for 6 years, and I want to share the love of Christ, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you go to Grandma and you say, Grandma, I want to go to El Salvador because they're going to go paragliding, right, one day, and I really want to do that. Like, no. But your grandma will probably want to bless you up. And your grandma also gets a tax write-off when they bless you up. So, I mean, like it's not like they don't get anything out of it. You know what I mean? Like, they get something out of it. Like, it's not like it's just a complete thing. And then it's also the opportunity to bless you, right? So when you fundraise, you are inviting people to act on their faith, right? So, and I always tell students, send a letter to Hannah and I, right? And tons of students don't. Only a handful of students have actually sent us a letter. And Hannah and I have always given, but we're never going to give until we're asked, right? And there's a part of humility that comes with that. There's a part of pride that we have to wrestle with. And it's uncomfortable, but I will tell you that when I was at y'all's age, that was my big boundary, is that I did not know how I was going to pay for the Ecuador trip. And I was going to work out a deal where I was going to slowly pay the Wesley Foundation back. That was like kind of where we reached. And I was going to work really hard over the summer and all this stuff. And I was talking to my mentor figure back in Spartanburg, and I had just gotten home from my exams. So it was like end of April, and we were leaving 3 weeks later, and I was talking with him, and he was like, "No, we can fundraise." And he taught me how to do it. And what you do is you just you send a letter or you hand a letter to literally everyone who knows you. And you would be surprised how many people want to bless you up. And within 7 days, my whole trip was fundraised because I was blessed by other people. So fundraising, it's uncomfortable. It's very doable. Very, very doable. Okay. Any questions on that? And then the last thing that I'll say, because y'all didn't really bring it up, because neither of y'all have gone international. I have a question with that. Is it because you haven't had the opportunity, or do you are you afraid to, or what could be some boundaries for going international?
I would love to go on an international trip because I've especially heard you and Hannah talk about it just for forever.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't ever been able to.
Yeah.
Just hasn't had the opportunity.
Yeah.
I think probably the biggest issue, which I think would be a lot of people's biggest thing, is just anytime you're going on a mission trip, even if it's just to North Carolina or Georgia or staying in South Carolina, you're in kind of your bubble. And then but if you're going to Ecuador or something, whoa,
yeah.
Total different scenery. You definitely don't know anyone you don't know. It just all kind of flips on its head. And so I think that would be my biggest issue is just accepting the fact you're just going to be lost for a little bit and it's just going to have to be okay.
Yeah.
To me, I think I've only kind of had that opportunity once where I turned it down, but I think to me, for some reason, just the word international feels more daunting, and it's probably not. I mean, it's the same kind of steps. You fundraise, you pack your bag, you get there somehow, and then you do the work. But yeah, for some reason, I think that's it. It just feels a little bit more pressure there. But I don't think that's the fault of the trip at all. I think that's just a subconscious thing of it's probably a plane ride instead of a car ride. It's probably a little bit more money. It's probably exactly what you're saying. It's learning more than I would if I was just going to the next state over. So yeah, that's kind of...
Yeah, well, and the one thing that y'all didn't say that always comes up is it's dangerous. I mean, a lot of people are afraid of the danger, right? I mean, and that's true. I mean, I had a parent call me and when we went to Nicaragua, and they were afraid that we would deal with rabid dogs, and I was just she asked me, she's like, "What are you gonna do if a rabid dog comes?" And I was like, "Stay away from it." I don't know how to answer this question. I mean, do you also want to know what we'll do if a meteorite collapses in on us? There's you know what I mean? What if I drop dead of a heart attack? You know what I mean? There's just all these different things that we could talk about could happen. Mm-hmm. And we do kind of let our anxiety go and realize that no, this is an opportunity for us to live. And so if safety or some people just don't like the idea of being uncomfortable. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna I can't drink the water from the faucet. Oh my goodness, I can't do that." Or I can't flush toilet paper. Oh my goodness, I can't do that. And it's come on, come on, you can. I guarantee you can. And yes, it is comfortable, but it's really good. And so, for whatever reason a student can come up with, I've only really heard maybe 2 or 3 valid reasons. But then all the others, I don't know. I'm just so I guess my answer is you should go. Whatever you can. And I'm just going to offer a really practical point. This is the easiest time for you to go on these trips. It is not. It is the only reason that Hannah and I are able to do mission trips anymore is because I am a pastor. I mean, that's just so true. A lot of young adults do not get to go on mission trips because you need PTO, you need to figure out grad school, you need to figure out all these different stuff. And then when you have a family, good Lord, good luck trying to go on a mission trip. So I would take advantage of that. And I will say, I'm teasing right now, but I think 2026, Wesley's going international. Look at me, what?
Whoa!
So, where we're going, I don't know.
Oh,
But I have some ideas. Anywho, y'all any questions on any of that? All right. Next question for y'all. That was a little bit of a tangent, but not really a tangent, but a rabbit hole. Next question for y'all that I have. What in Scripture makes you think that we should go on these trips?
I mean, I don't want this to sound heresy, but not that we're doing really miracles or anything, but Jesus did go around servicing other people and helping other people along his journey. And so, along our journey of life, we could help people. Perhaps. I don't know.
Perhaps. Sure.
So, like, for me, I end up volunteering for it, but, like, in the morning, like, a devotional is being done, and I'm trying to remember, I think it's Colossians 3:23, and I can't quite remember, like, how it goes, but it talks about, like, like, reaping the rewards, or, like, do the hard work. John's gonna look
Why
it
do we
up.
sing everything that we're unsure about?
Great question. I don't know.
Colossians is hard to find. Colossians what?
3:23.
That's Galatians.
Oh.
I need Colossians. Completely different.
Is this one that you did a
Here
lesson
it is.
on?
It's the one that, like, I always end up using.
3:23.
Yeah.
Do you want to read it?
No, you can read it. It's fine.
Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for men.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bars.
That is kind of some straight bars.
Yeah, like, I found that when I, like, Googled, like, top 10 verses.
Yeah.
And I found that one, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Because I'm like, it's literally just like, yeah. It goes and tells you,
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
But don't do it for the guy down the street. We'll do it for the guy down the street, but, like,
Yeah.
do it because it shows something bigger.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not going to steal. I don't think I'm going to steal your thunder here, but something you have brought up is, like, I know, like, some denominations in the past have gotten flack for saying salvation through works because you just get salvation, but because you are saved and have all of those, like, grace and, like, fruit of the Spirit within you, you'll want to help serve other people.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another thing.
Yeah, and and that's super Wesleyan. That's like a pretty Wesleyan understanding. Is basically Wesley understood that faith has to be acted on, right? And that is not necessarily true in other denominations. Faith is just something that people have, is the understanding. And so, like Methodists, if you were to put on just an even plane, what is more important, studying theology or serving the poor? Methodists would say serving the poor, but there are some denominations that think, no, you should actually just, like, turn your full attention to God. We understand that faith is acted on. So you are right, is that in the Methodist and Wesleyan understanding that, like, because we are saved, we are working for God's kingdom. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of scriptures, and the one that you said about, like, Colossians 3:23, it made me think of in Matthew, 25th chapter. Jesus is talking about it, and he says that, like, at the end of the days, the judge will sort everyone. He'll sort sheep and the goats, right? And they'll be like, well, wait a minute, why do we get sorted here? And the judge will say, well, because I was hungry and you fed me, I was naked and you clothed me, I was in prison and you visited me, I was hurt and you healed me. And then they're all like, but Lord, wherein did we see you hungry or thirsty or naked or in prison? And then he says, whatever you do for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you do for me. And this is understanding that when we serve others, we serve God, right? So that's pretty cool. But one of the big scriptures that I hold fast to is from the book of James. chapter 2, verses 14 through something. 14 through 18. And James is writing to recently converted Jews. And Jews have the understanding that, like, we cannot work our faith, right? We cannot work our salvation. We cannot do anything. And so we really need to be kind of focusing on ritual, and we need to be focusing on tradition, and we need to do all those things. James is trying to push them and saying, like, no, we're different now. Like, we serve. We are like Christ, right? Christian is to be little Christ. And so we do serve. And so James is saying, he says, what good is it, my brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but do not have works? Can faith save you? If a brother or sister is naked and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm, and eat your fill, and yet do not supply their bodily needs, what good is that? So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith, and I have works. I say, show me your faith apart from your works, and I, by my works, will show you my faith. And I love that. Where he's like, what good is it if there's a hungry person, and you say, oh, don't be hungry, bye. And you don't actually feed them, right? Like, I think that that's lazy faith. And I don't think that's complete faith. We are called to serve, and we are called to go and do. And we can show our faith by what we do. And there are a lot of denominations who use service trips and mission trips as a tool of evangelism, where they will talk to the homeowners about the good news of Jesus Christ and all this stuff, especially if they know that the homeowner is not a professing believer or whatever. I think it is a better tool of evangelism to be Jesus Christ. And then people are like, what's up with those people? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, service trips are an opportunity to live out our faith. And so, in that, we can serve people at all times, and we can serve them in all places. And so we have talked about how, sometimes we just do local service things that's like for an afternoon. But really talking about the trips and stuff like that, one of the things that I think is important in a mission trip is the team. And we've talked kind of about the fellowship, and we've talked about like what the benefits are of the fellowship and stuff like that. But what do you think are the signs that make a good team, and how can you be a good team member on service mission trips?
I think there's like kind of a few different aspects that can like make up a good team, and part of it's like you can make it work. Like if you're a good team and you're like, wow guys, we're supposed to build this deck and we only have this much wood, and you make it work, like, and you all get together and you're like, okay, we'll just shave off inches here, we'll make it a little bit shorter, like whatever we have to do, is like y'all can make it work, you're good. But I think it also to be a part of like a good team and to like be a good person for a team is being flexible. Because like you on Sakahashi, like sometimes you'll get given like different rooms, like say you're working on the bathroom, working on the kitchen, working on the roof. Maybe you start out Monday, you are in the bathroom tearing out the floor, and by Monday afternoon, you're on the roof. And you're on the roof for the rest of the week. Because someone else that's on the roof knows bathroom better. Or maybe you know bathroom better, and you're the person you're switching around. But just being able to be flexible and work with what you're given, and just being able to do what you're being told. Because 9 out of 10 times, your leaders are not going to tell you something that's going to harm you. And they're not going to tell you to do something that they wouldn't do. And so it's like just being flexible and being like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like, which is really important.
For me, I think it's an important aspect to make a good team is remembering that every team member has value and is important. And in that, I mean that a lot of the time, I think we give a lot of praise, and we should be proud of those in groups that can build a deck super fast or can staple up something like really good. But I think there's also a lot of ministry in the people that will sit with the homeowner and hear about their day or their life or just be an open ear. There's also importance to have the team members that maybe don't really know what they're doing, but they're the cheerleaders or maybe the people that clean up after everybody. So I think that's something that makes a good team is not only not worrying if there's only like a couple of the really handy people in the group, because that just is what it is sometimes, but also remembering that like there's a lot of different roles that are important and equally important.
Yeah, I think realizing that everything that is done on the job site is equal, right? Like the person who sweeps is just as helpful as the person who mounts the ramp, you know. And also, I think one of the best ways that you can be a good team member is to not take yourself seriously, because like that is the most annoying thing is when people just like get hung up on like whatever because their own ego is getting in the way, and it's like no. Or the hardos who are like, what the heck is going on? Y'all are playing Ninja in the front yard when we could be doing this. It's like, brother, we'll get it done. Like we're gonna play Ninja because we want to have fun.
We can take the 10-minute break. Like this is a
you
5
know, like,
minute.
and I mean, there's a line between goofing off and like having fun, and like, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And like, I've had to have conversations with students about that, where like they get mad at me because I'm just letting people goof off, is what they understand. And I was like, well, did the job get done at the end of the day? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, then what does it matter, right? So yeah, I think not taking yourself too seriously is pretty important. But the last thing, what benefit do you have in your faith life in serving others and going on these trips? Because we talked about like what we do for others, but there is a mutual benefit in these things.
I think sometimes it's like listening to the homeowner, like Ava said, because I'm like, sometimes people that just, because I know on some sites, sometimes I've been on, you'll have someone that, it's not their job, but like the homeowner just latches onto them. And they're pretty much, like we had one time, there was one of these girls on the sites that the homeowner was like, yeah, this is your room. Like the lady in the house just like gave her a room, and it was like the only AC'd room. And she was like, this is, and so it's like, but also just listening to them, like, what is their faith story? What is their just life story?
Yeah.
You know, who, just because this is the life that they live now, who were they 20 years ago? They might have been the all-star quarterback for high school.
Yeah.
And it's like learning that and then seeing, like, just life through someone else's eyes and through, like, a different lens.
Yeah, I think through these trips you learn how to be uncomfortable and you learn how to be comfortable in your uncomfortableness, because kind of what you were saying, like you get faced with your own blessings on these trips, which is great and it's very positive, and so it makes you do like a self-inventory, and sometimes that can be an uncomfortable self-inventory if like you notice that, hey, I'm not being as grateful as I should be, or hey, like I need to be or even just uncomfortableness, like what you were talking about, John, and like learning how to do things differently for a week and be in the hot sun in South Carolina in July for a week and those types of things. So I do think you learn how to be uncomfortable. And I think you also, this is going to be a weird explanation, but I think like a lot of times, we've talked about this before, when we see people in tough situations, we often are like, where's God? Where's he at? Yeah. And you get faced with that, I think, a little bit, but at the same time, it reminds me of this song lyric where it goes like, we ask God, why aren't you doing something? And he said, I created you, or something like that. Oh. So you also get to have that experience of like realizing that God is working. He's just working through you and working through this body of people. So that's a pretty cool like faith experience, I think. So,
yeah. I think if you assume that you don't have anything to learn or gain these people that you serve, then you are pretentious. I think that my philosophy of mission and service trips is that the mission and the service is actually our hearts, and our hearts are repaired when we're repairing the ramp. And it's great that other people are blessed, but like 9 times out of 10 we're blessed more. And also, and that's even more so apparent in international missions. Some people can, and it's fine to feel good about the work you do, but like to think that you've like saved lives because you brought a bag of food, like you've helped them, but really like your heart is being softened, and you're the one who's going to come back and like know more about God. So I think it's always important to realize what God is doing in your heart, that you are part of the mission. For the Wesley memory moment, it's got to be with Wesley trips or service projects. Where did you see Jesus most apparent in someone else?
I think for me, which granted I haven't been on as many trips with Wesley, so it's kind of like I don't have a lot to choose from.
Just let the fire truck drive by real quick. Go ahead.
Okay. Whenever we were in North Carolina, it was me and like 3 or so others. We're all underneath the building, like taking out this like plastic lining, and all of a sudden we found a cat. And by we, I don't mean me, but one of them found a cat.
I remember that.
And like everyone coming together to like kind of corner off this kitten.
Yeah.
And then like I look, and one of the guys just has like his arm, like full arm, just down this hole, and comes out with the cat. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on there, but like, and then the kitten was good and it was happy. But it was like all of us just coming together and being like, we have this common goal. We got to get this cat.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, that's just the one where I'm like,
I'll give it to you.
maybe it doesn't make sense, but that's okay.
Yeah.
For me, I'm gonna go with on the Florida trip, disaster relief trip, my freshman year. We were working on these houses, and some of them were flat out destroyed, and like just not a lot left. And this one couple left and came back with boxes of sandwiches and like chips and drinks. Like they were a couple that lost their home, that we were working on their home, and they scrounged around and went and got us food. And that was definitely a Jesus moment, because I was like, wow, like, because we was a lot of people too, that they bought a lot of food. And like, I mean, I think we all knew that everybody is in a tough situation during those disaster relief trips, because it's not cheap to have to rebuild your life. So the fact that they not only took their money out, but their time, and then they sat with us and talked with us for like an hour, and weren't like, get back to work on my house. They just wanted to chat and hear about what South Carolina was like, because they were from Florida. And so it was just super cool. Yeah.
I'm going to kick it back to when I was y'all's age with Wesley. This is one of the most profound Jesus moments, and this was the delayed detonation that Jesus did on me, because like didn't dawn on me until years later. But we were doing disaster relief in Florida, and this home was bad. It is the worst place I've worked in, and the homeowner was really rough, and she was very coarse, and she was very mean, and she just had a lot of lifestyle choices that like were uncomfortable for us, but like we still had to clean out her house, and so and it was just really hard to be empathetic to her because she was so mean, and it was just a tough week working with her. And there was one day, because Florida's hot in December, and there was one day where the coordinator of the trip, she arrived, and they had popsicles and cold water. And so I got up to grab one for me, and Hannah was on the trip with me then, when we were just students together. But anyway, I got up and I was going to get Hannah and I a popsicle and some water, and the homeowner was sitting back with her feet propped up, and I was like, oh, Miss Sherry, would you like anything? And she was like, I'll take water. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so I went and I grabbed water and I brought it back and I was like, anything else? And she's like, well, can you open the water for me? Because she had a stroke and so she couldn't use both hands. She could only use one. And I opened it and then she's like, well, actually, could you just pour that on my feet? Because my feet hurt. And like, I just like poured it on her feet. It was just cold water. And she was like, that's like the best thing that I've experienced in a long time, is something that she said. And I walked off, and then like 2 years later, it just like dawned on me that like Christ washed feet.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it just made me realize that like, regardless of whatever people's lifestyle is, like that doesn't mean that Christ can't work in them, and it doesn't mean that they are not Christ-like. And yeah, and like I'll go to my grave like being thankful that God was that clever with that experience.
Mm-hmm.
But that was very holy.
That's really cool. Well, do you guys have anything else?
Go on mission trips
Yes.
with me and others.
And me.
And Ava.
And you,
And
Lily.
me. Listen, man, my brain.
Well, okay. With that, I think we know what's up with service. If you guys have any questions, you can reach us at our email, which is wuw@wesleychs.org. And also, don't forget to like or follow on whatever platform you're listening to.
You can go to our website, which is wesleychs.org, to learn more about us. And you can also find us on Instagram and Facebook. And with that, let's pray. God, we thank you for the call to go out and serve. And we just ask that you give us the courage and the wisdom and the strength and the patience to do so. Help us to find the opportunities and help us to act on them. And help us to do it with humility. Help us to do it with openness and vulnerability and a willingness to be uncomfortable. We give you thanks for these opportunities, and we just ask that you work through us in those opportunities. It is in your name that we pray. Amen. Catch you next week.